Hi, this is Margo. This is Thursday afternoon, November 28th, 2019, and it's Thanksgiving Day. I hope everyone is having a good day wherever you are, and whether it's day or night or the next day for you, I'm thinking about everyone, and we're going to do a methane and sea ice update. We're also going to look at Sam Carana's latest stuff on his blog. So I prepared some things for you, and we're going to start out with CAMS, Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services. Sorry, I'm hoarse. Just have to deal with it. We've got methane. This is the latest data from Tuesday the 26th. I have the Arctic level pulled up and surface view pulled up. And someone left a comment under my last video saying that Tuesday looked like the worst one yet that they'd seen. I've seen worse, but it's pretty bad. And the NOAA data, methane went up this week according to the NOAA data that I'm tracking. So here it is where it left off on Monday. And by the way, if you're not aware, I am documenting the methane data from CAMS every time new data is released. I'm documenting it and posting it on my Subscribe channel for my private members over there. Also doing posting other research and spiritual stuff and things like that for my members over there. And with the coming sweeping YouTube changes that I'm sure everybody's aware of, you're hearing about it, nobody really knows what's going to happen to their channels. Since I'm not monetized, it's very likely that my channel will just disappear one day. And I did a video last week about this, so you need to look at that. And Subscribe is going to be my go-to platform, where that will be the central location for all of my announcements and my videos and things like that. I will still be doing some public posts, but most of them will be private. I am prepared to not be on YouTube. The problem is everybody's used to it, and a whole bunch of people are not going to see the work. So, and I also have a website, margoshealingcorner.com. You can find me over there. I have a BitChute channel. The channel is just Margo. I'll be posting some things over there, but the majority of it is going to be, like I said, going to come out on my Subscribe platform, and it's just Margo over on Subscribe. So if you've not checked out these other venues, you need to go ahead and do it now, because I'm not going to fight with trying to keep a channel up if they're changing all the rules and they don't want me. So there's that. So here's where it left off on Monday. We're seeing a high release coming up north of the UK and the Scotland area, and it's moving out into the Atlantic, and we haven't seen it yellow like that rising up out of the Atlantic before. And we're seeing a lot of red over here in Russia, and seeing a lot of red over here in North America. So let's just run the movie and see what we can see. We can see this wave moving across Russia. Here's the Yama Peninsula. It's releasing quite a bit. Here's these arms sweeping up north of Norway and Finland and Sweden and this little part of Russia. We're also seeing higher releases coming up here in this Lattev Sea. So, and this is near that Bennett Island that we were talking about. Bennett Island is right here where they recorded the really high methane releases off the side of the boat. So it's winter time. A lot of this most of this area is in the dark, but there's a problem also as the ice is refreezing, and it's freezing. It's not very thick, but it is freezing a little bit. It's freezing over the warm water, and so it's trapping the heat under the surface of the ice and causing more methane to melt, in these sediments and stuff. So that's why we're seeing methane coming up through the sea ice. So it's not a good situation at all, and I expect to see a blowout just any day now. Look at Iceland. It's got a large release on this left-hand corner. Now watch here. See? Iceland is volcanic in nature anyway. So we've got that going on. I just put up a video last night for my members about high sulfur dioxide releases coming up out of Kazakhstan, right down in this area. I've been watching that, and I did a little research and did a preliminary video of my preliminary findings, and that's for my members on Subscribestar. That's put that up last night. So, I mean, things are happening so fast, and I seriously don't know how much longer we have. But as long as we have, and as long as I'm able to, I will keep doing my reporting. Now we're looking at the North Pole view. So we're seeing the northern hemisphere from this view. Here's Greenland, Canada, here's Alaska, and this is all Russia, Siberia, and then here's Europe down here. This is India. We can see India's covered up. We can see huge release still coming up out of the Indian Ocean. This is China. And here's China. This is Korea over here, North and South Korea. It's pretty hot looking. This is Japan over here. We can see this yellow band moving out across the Atlantic. So that's a higher release, moving across the Atlantic. Then we have this wave moving off of North America across the Atlantic. We can see the whole eastern seaboard is pretty covered up. So the data is from Tuesday, and the forecast period runs through Saturday. And their forecasts are pretty good, pretty accurate, because they get data from a lot of different modeling systems and feed it in to the big computer. See this wave moving out and about across the Atlantic? And it pulses because when the sun comes up, it's hotter, and so it releases, and then at nighttime it goes down. That's why you see the pulsing. Now let's look at the global view. It looks awful, but you know, it is what it is. Oh, by the way, remember in my last YouTube video, my last update, these lines were not black, they were gold. Remember that? And we could see the outline of Australia and New Zealand and the Antarctic. And I said something about that it was okay, but we couldn't see the outline up here. The very next day it went back to black. The very next day, and I did a report, it was on Wednesday last week. It was on the 20th. So I think someone from CAMS must be watching my videos. This all went to black, back to black. It was gold or tan color for a couple of days, and it was really hard to see the borders of the countries. You just couldn't make them out. You could make them out down here in blue, but you couldn't make them out up here in the green. So it went back to black. So there you have it. Alright, so there's our world global view. Now if we go to, we're on surface level right now. We're going to go up in the atmosphere about halfway up. This is the 500 HPA reading. This is about halfway up in the atmosphere. We have to refresh to get the correct color ledger down here that goes up to 2360 parts per billion. So we can see it gathering up here between Russia and Alaska, right up here and over here. Just north of Africa right there. And now let's go on up to total column. Here's total column, and let's refresh again and we'll get the chart, the color ledger, and it goes up to 2320 on this one. That's parts per billion. So we can see the green moving further south. It used to be up here about the equator, and now it's moved further south, the green levels. This green is about 1760 parts per billion. This aqua color is about 1740 parts per billion. This green that's that bright green, it's 1800 parts per billion. And then it goes up. This solid color is 1840. This solid orangey or yellow orange. The darker orange is 1860. That's kind of a mix. Oh, it's this color, this darker orange color. The bright red is 1880. That's this color, bright red. The darker red is 1900, and then this dark brown, brownish red is 1920 to 2320 parts per billion. So we can see, we've seen it worse than this at times, but it's not looking good. we're seeing the reddish color spreading out and moving about all over the place and just spreading out as the methane moves through the atmosphere. We're also seeing red colors popping up in areas that we haven't seen before. Here's China. It's the worst. It's the biggest polluter on the planet. So we're going to leave this as a backdrop. It's taking its time. I guess the internet is pretty busy today. There it goes. Now, let's move on over to the NOAA data. This is the data from the METOP-1 and METOP-2 satellites from Tuesday the 26th. They take readings twice a day, morning and afternoon. So we have 4 readings a day. In the morning, the METOP-1 satellite, and this is from the 477 millibar reading, but it says pressure 469, but when you want to find this picture, you have to click on the 477 millibar GIF on the NOAA website. The mean was 1884. The range was 1482 to 2409 parts per billion. So we can see it going from 1500 down here in Antarctica, and then like this light orangey color, that's about 1500, up to this dark red is 2000, and then the fuchsia color is 2000 up to 2409. It's a range, and we can see the fuchsia color, which is the higher readings, all the way across the northern hemisphere basically. Here's the reading in the afternoon. These white areas are no data or missing data. The mean was 1882. The range was 1468 to 2499. We're seeing some darker red down here over the Antarctic. Here's the METOP-2 satellite in the morning. The mean was 1865. This satellite typically reads lower than the other one. The range is 1475 to 2351. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1863, and the range was 1473 to 2376. So I plugged those numbers into the spreadsheet. Right up here, added them up and divided by 4, and the average for Tuesday for the 477 millibar reading was 1873.25 parts per billion, and that was up 1 part per billion since last week. Now I'd been going down. It went up a little bit here. But see, the highest reading that we had since I started this in March was October the 12th, right here at 1885.75. So the trend has been going down. It went up a little bit here this certain week. and then it jumped down in that 10-day period, and then it went back up in this last 7-day period, 1 part per billion. So that's kind of typical. It's like, watching stocks or something go up and down, but the trend is up. So we're heading into the time of year where typically it will go down, so we'll see how much longer it keeps dropping. So there's that. Now let's move on over into our sea ice report. My last report was on November the 20th, so I've been saving the sea ice and snow cover pictures I think I missed once this last week. We ended on Wednesday, November 20th, so this is where it was on Wednesday, November 20th. So let's move forward in our slideshow. Here's the 22nd. I missed the 21st. So in 2 days you saw a dramatic increase in the extent. It's the 23rd, 24th. Now watch this little hole here. It's going to fill in. It's the 25th, 26th. Now it's filled in. 27th. And here it is today on the 28th. Then we see a retreat. Now look at this. Here in this Chukchi Sea, where it came out on the 27th. And we saw it retreat on the 28th. And this is because the temperature is so warm up there. And we'll look at Climate Reanalyzer in a minute too. So that's where we're at right now, according to Climate Reanalyzer on sea ice and snow cover. Here's the Navy, U.S. Navy sea ice thickness model. Here it is for today. Let's blow this up so we can get a detailed view. We can see that the extent is trying to come back. It is trying to fill in. Here's that little hole in the Chukchi Sea. It did barely fill in. It's quite thin there. We're seeing it getting a little bit darker purple, meaning it's getting a little bit thicker. So the purple is anything above 0 to about 1 meter. The darker purple is 1 meter. The blue, the dark blue, is about 1.25 meters, and then as it moves into the aqua, it moves to 1.5 meters thick. Then the aqua is about 2 meters thick, and so on. So the only sea ice that's thicker than the aqua is this little area right here on the northern tip of Greenland, and it's in the red zone. This would be the thickest, between 4 and 4.5 meters thick, right there. And that's all I'm seeing. So it's trying to come back. It's struggling, but here's the North Pole in the middle here where these lines cross. So at the North Pole, it's between the purple and the blue. So it's about 1.25 meters thick at the North Pole. So it's thicker further south to the north of Greenland here. That's where the thickest area is. And Baffin Bay is having a problem. The sea surface temperature is quite warm there. We can look at that too. Here's the 30-day animated GIF from the Navy website. It goes back 3 weeks and then forecasts out 1 week ahead. So we can see 3 weeks ago how much thinner it was and how the extent is just coming back a little bit, but it's getting just a little bit more purple, more filled in is what it looks like. And it's getting thicker here from going from the blue to the aqua, getting more thick ice there. But the majority of the ice is still quite thin. So there's that. I made this movie for you this is from NASA Worldview. In my last report, I ended on November the 18th. This is the sea ice concentration layer that we're looking at on the blue marble layer. And it goes to the 26th. So from the 18th to the 26th. So we can see the extent coming out, growing, getting more around Svalbard. It hasn't quite made it to the western edge of Svalbard. It's coming back a little bit in the Baffin Bay, but we can also see, where it comes back, then it kind of retreats sometimes, just depending on the temperature and what's going on up there. So that's my slideshow that I prepared for you today. So we're going to leave that for now. Now let's go over to our websites that we're going to look at. Bring this down. This is the National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is the Arctic sea ice concentration for yesterday, and we can see that it correlates to what we saw from NASA Worldview. And the bluer it is, the less concentrated it is. Here's the graph for the Arctic sea ice extent. And the blue line, the dotted line was 2012, and that was the lowest extent ever measured. And we're below that for this time of year. We're below 2012 extent, so it's not looking good. And then we can click on the Antarctic. Here's the sea ice concentration. You can see it's really melting fast down there, and down here the Ross Sea is all melted. And here's the graph for the Antarctic sea ice extent. Last year is this dark line was the lowest ever last year, but we're below that this year for this time of year. So the Antarctic is not looking good either. I wanted to show you, this is NASA Worldview, this is today. Let's refresh this, make sure we have the latest data. It's almost all in. Here's the Ross Sea. We can see this where the sea ice has totally melted away from this ice shelf here. Now they're in full sunlight for the next few months as the northern hemisphere heads into winter. Southern hemisphere heads into summer. Here's the Pine Island Glacier. It's in cloud cover today, but if we click back a couple of days, we can see this is a little bit of cloud cover, but we can see how all that sea ice has melted away. There's an active volcano under here. There are lots of active volcanoes underneath the Antarctic. They keep finding more. And I wanted to show you this iceberg, this A68. I've been tracking that. This right here, we can see it through the clouds. That's a really good view right here. It's huge, and it has broken away from the sea ice. It's getting ready to head out to open water. And remember, a couple of years ago, it broke off from this Larsen Sea ice shelf right here, where you see the line. That's where it all broke off, and it's been gradually rotating around and moving up, and I've been showing it periodically on its journey, and it's moved all the way around. It broke off in I think it was July of 2017. In their winter time, it was dark, and it broke off, and it didn't really go anywhere for the first year, and then it started moving, rotating last year, and I was showing that, and now here it is. It's getting ready to go out to open water, and it's huge. A little piece is broken off here because it used to be kind of filled in, but for the most part it's holding its form. Here's a little bit of sea ice left over here, but this is called A68. No one's reporting on this. Here it is, and here it is yesterday. It's in the clouds. Here it is today, and you can see when you zoom in, it's broken away. Definitely, there's a definite line. It's definitely broken away from the sea ice. So it's ready to go. So we'll see who starts reporting on this now that I've shown this. And you can see the movement in, like here it is on the 25th. See how it's angled? Like that tippy point is angled. Now watch. There it is today, and it's straight up. It's not angled anymore. So in 3 days, it's just moved. It's amazing to watch its movement. Here it is on the 23rd. That's a good shot of it. But still angled, and then today it's moved on. The tippy point's up here. So that's what's going on there. Then, let's go on over to the 28th. This Weddell Sea is melting really fast. You can see huge areas where you can see the ocean. Getting lost. Oh, here's the Brunt ice sheet. That's still there. That's where they had the cracks run through it, and they had to airlift the people off the research station. Here we can we're starting to see some of the mountain peaks where the snow is melting. Here's some more. This is the Amory ice sheet. Remember this? There was a piece that broke off here where this line is. That all broke off. Remember that broke off about the end of September, I think, or October. I've been trying to watch that, but it's hard. I think it kind of merged in with the ice. So I think it's part of this. That ice there. It's kind of hard to tell. I think it's right there. That's it. So it's probably going to move on out soon. As soon as this melts. It probably will. There's so many clouds, it's hard to see and keep track. So there it is today. We can see the snow's melted around a lot of the coastline here. Right here, that's rock. So it's melting. It's definitely melting. So we're going to leave that. See what else. Let's go to Climate Reanalyzer. I forgot to pull that up. Let's go to today's weather maps. Here's the maximum temperatures. We can see this area in the Arctic, that's above zero. That's that area where the sea ice is having a hard time coming back. And it's hot. It's hot down here. Look at Australia, it's burning up. And it's cold. See the cold moving down? Look at this 2-meter temperature anomaly. Here it is today. See how it's all red? This is up about 20 degrees warmer than normal. The bright red. And the brown is about 10 degrees warmer than normal. And see this area here in the Baffin Bay, it's a lot warmer than normal. This is also an area where the ice just is coming right to that line. Here's the world. And the Antarctic, there's a lot of red down there, warmer than normal. And we can see across Siberia a lot of brown, so that's much warmer than normal. That's why we're seeing that all that methane releasing there too. Here's that cold front moving down across the United States. Cold, cold air heading down through the Sierra Nevada, Sierra Mountains. So today the world is 0.6 degrees higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is 0.9 plus. The Arctic is a 2 plus. Tropics are 0.7 plus. Southern hemisphere 0.3 plus. The Antarctic is 2.3 plus. So there's that. Let's look at precipitation. The blue is snow, so we can see it's snowing in the Arctic. The green is rain, so we're seeing a lot of rain up here in in these northern areas. They're Alaska's got a storm going on. Lots of snow and it looks like rain down there. And so on. Let's look at the jet stream. Oh, that's pretty out of kilter. Look how it splits up here. And then look at it swoop down and then come up, and look how wide it is coming across the whole United States. That's crazy. And look how wide it is coming across the Pacific there. And here's the southern jet stream. That's totally mixed up. Here's the sea ice and snow cover that we looked at earlier. So when you look at all these different factors, you get a bigger picture, better understanding of what's going on. And sea surface temperature anomaly. Now this is old. This is from Sunday the 24th. They're days behind on that. I don't know why. But look at this area around Greenland. It's in the red. And then brown. And that sea ice is just, it's right here, coming right up to the brown. Not refreezing down here in this Baffin Bay. Look at it. It comes around to Iceland. And then it's brown over here in the Pacific, much warmer than normal. So on. Down here, brown in the Tasman Sea between Australia and New Zealand. And so on. So there's that. Let's look at some earthquakes now. This is USGS for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours. We're showing 202 earthquakes. That's the lowest number I've seen worldwide in a very long time. But we've had big ones. We've had some huge ones in the last week. This is the Ridgecrest area. It's still registering. It's got 62 here in the last 24 hours. This is the Searles Valley Ridgecrest area in Southern California. There's a 2.2. 2.7. I had some 3s down here yesterday, I think. There's a 3.1 Coso Junction. So it's not stopped. It's just slowing down a little bit. And look at this one. Here's one right at the tippy point of the Arctic Peninsula here. It's a 5.6 in the Scotia Sea, right on that red line. So if we look back, all magnitudes for the last week, just to get an idea. That's a lot. 2003 worldwide, and USGS does not report all of them, as you know. One's big ones of news over here. .0 in Greece. That was in the ocean. I mean, the Mediterranean Sea. Then over here we had all this stuff here at Albania. 19. And it started with the 6.4. That was downgraded from a 6.8 with a lot of damage. People died in that. This is just the beginning. Look at all these aftershocks, large aftershocks. I'm sure there were more, but these are the ones that USGS reported on. This one was on land, so the big one was on land. So as things keep heating up and the weight keeps shifting on these tectonic plates, we're going to see more and more earthquakes, more and more seismic activity. We're seeing more volcanic activity. We're going to see land masses rising and sinking. Look at all of this up here in the Aleutian Islands. Look at this, all around these red lines. There was a big one, 6.3 at ADAC. Then some aftershocks. These are volcanic islands too. And then we also had activity over here in the Kuril Islands. I remember last summer I reported on this Rykoki volcano that went off here in one of these islands. It came back to life after being dormant since 1902 or something. Blew up. So now we've got all these earthquakes around there. So I'm amazed that there's not more damage, not more lives lost, considering how active everything is. Here's the United States. Here's Mexico. Here's Dominican Republic. Of course, we've got a lot of people reporting now on this Cascadia subduction zone. Comes down here. Waiting for this movement to happen from this Juan de Fuca plate and the Cascadia. Huge problems. So I don't know when it's going to happen. I just think people need to be prepared. We also had a lot of activity. Look at this big one in Chico. 3.0. This was yesterday at Chico. And then a 2.2 next to it. And remember the Oroville Dam is right here next to it. Here's one just to the east of 1.2 of the Oroville Dam. Here's Chico. Not that far. And look at how these just go all the way up through Northern California. There are dams all the way up here. Then we got Mount Shasta up here. Here's this fulcrum point from the San Andreas fault line coming up. So This is Mammoth Lakes. We're still seeing a lot of activity there. We're seeing activity coming all the way down the San Andreas fault line still. Here's a new one. Just came in. 3.5 at Boron at 3:10 this afternoon. 1.1 kilometer deep. So shallow. They do a lot of blasting there. They have a boron mine. It's where they get borax out of. Bet you didn't know that. Look at all this down here in Southern California. This is the event area. See how it's spreading out and about. And then here's LA, San Diego, and it comes all the way down. And we had Warm Springs swarming this week. 54 here. All at Warm Springs, Nevada. 3.1. That was one of the larger ones. So you can see they're picking up and they're getting bigger. I mean, you don't have to do a daily earthquake report to see that it's all picking up. I mean, just once a week is enough to see it. We had some earthquakes up at Lake Tahoe. Look at this right in the middle. And then 2 up in the northwest edge. This was a 2.2 right in the middle. That one happened on the 24th. So, there you have it. Then we got activity up here coming on up and through the Seattle area. This is all part of that Cascadia area. Lots of volcanoes. Dormant volcanoes. Look at this. Mount Rainier. Look at these right next to it. Here's one right almost in the crater. There's the crater. They're small, but the small ones count. So we need to prep, but you know, we're all going to go. We're all going to go sooner or later. Just a matter of where you are and when it's your time. Seriously. Okay, let's go on over to Sam Carana's blog. Arctic-news.blogspot.com. We're just going to see what's on his homepage here. Just scroll through his latest posts. This is from Wednesday, yesterday. Accelerating greenhouse gas levels. Yeah, we know that. The United Nations Environment Program, or UNEP, just released its annual emissions gap report, warning that even if all current unconditional commitments under the Paris Agreement are implemented, temperatures are expected to rise by 3.2 degrees Celsius, bringing even wider-ranging and more destructive climate impacts. The report adds that a continuation of current policies could lead to a global mean temperature rise of 3.5 degrees C by 2100, or a range of 3.4 to 3.9 degrees C, 66% probability. Now we already know It's going to be higher than that. We've talked about that. So is Sam Carana. Indeed, the rise in greenhouse gas levels appears to be accelerating, despite pledges made under the Paris Agreement to holding the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees C above pre-industrial levels, and pursuing efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees C above pre-industrial levels. Well, when you're microwaving the planet, guess what? It's going to heat up. When you're beaming down with all these thousands of satellites from space and you're doing 5G all over the place, it's going to heat up. We're in a microwave oven. Don't they know that? And here's Sam Carana's chart. The World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, recently reported carbon dioxide, or CO2, concentrations for 2018 of 407.8 parts per million, as illustrated by the image on the right. The WMO adds that CO2 levels, as well as methane and nitrous oxide levels, had all surged by higher amounts than during the past decade. Yes, we knew that. As the image below shows, a trend based on NOAA March 1958 through October 2019 monthly mean CO2 data at Mauna Loa points at CO2 levels crossing the 415 ppm mark in 2020, when an El Niño is forecast to come, as discussed in an earlier post. See, there's that red line going straight up. Here's 2020. It's only going to go up. The added trend in the image points at CO2 levels crossing 1200 ppm before the end of the century. Well, we won't be able to breathe at all. We won't be here. Triggering the cloud feedback tipping point that by itself could push up global temperatures by 8 degrees C within a few years. Importantly, the cloud's feedback starts at 1200 ppm CO2 equivalent besides the CO2 rise. Further elements could contribute to the 1200 ppm CO2e tipping point getting reached, such as albedo changes due to disappearing Arctic sea ice and seafloor methane releases from a rapidly warming Arctic Ocean. Yes, indeed. In conclusion, a huge temperature rise could eventuate much earlier than by the end of the century. The image below illustrates the potential for a rise of 18 degrees C or 32.4 degrees Fahrenheit by 2026. Well, we won't be here to see that. We won't be here to see that. They say humans will die at 3 degrees C, or 3.5. We won't be here. We're going away soon. Very soon. There's no fixing this. There's no fighting climate change. How do you fight climate change? It's not like a debate. Seriously, you don't fight climate change. You can get frustrated, but there's no going back. Oh, by the way, I'll leave a link below. Anthony Patch interviewed Dane Wigington on his show. I think it was yesterday or day before. It's very good. Very, very good. And Dane was saying he doesn't think we can fix anything. He was saying that we could maybe make it mitigate some of the awful stuff that's going to happen, but we're done basically. As discussed in a recent post, a 2020 El Niño could be the catalyst triggering huge methane releases from the Arctic Ocean seafloor starting in 2020 and resulting in such a 18 degrees C or 32.4 degrees Fahrenheit temperature rise within a few years' time. So this is why people need to come join me over on Subscribestar, because I'm showing methane as soon as it comes out on CAMS. So let's move on. What does this say? Let's move on. Then he leaves his links and everything. This post is by Andrew Glickson from Sunday, November 24th. The breach of the Paris Agreement. A lot of countries just never, they agreed to it, but they didn't do anything. Then you've got China. They're the worst polluters in the world. But you can go to Sam Carana's blog and just look this up. Here's his Sunday, November 17th post. Arctic Ocean. There's the Arctic Ocean. See how it's all broken up? This is just north of Greenland. There's Svalbard over there. Here he shows Climate Reanalyzer, like I do. Here's this graph of temperatures north of 80 degrees north, how much warmer they become. Look at this spike right here. Blue is 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's freezing. That's right here, freezing. The red, 2019, mean to November. Here's the Arctic sea ice volume for November 21st. This is the volume for the Arctic sea ice. It's at its lowest point ever. Here's an image from Zach Labe showing the Chukchi sea ice. That's that area that's having a hard time coming back. That's at its lowest point ever for this time of year. There's November 2019, red. Oceans are absorbing more than 90% of global heating. So they're dying. And here's showing the AMOC, how it's supposed to flow, and it's not flowing the way it's supposed to. And so on. And he uses a lot of the same graphs and stuff over and over. This is a graph he uses a lot, showing how the methane hydrates can melt so much quicker now because of the heat of the ocean gets trapped. Here it was before the thick sea ice. The buffer is gone, And now after the 2012, the sea ice is really thin. And so it can just come up. This is from Saturday, November 16th. The 2020 El Nino could start the 18 degrees C temperature rise. So it's going to be a rough ride. And I expect that masses of people will be dying. Masses. I'm amazed that we still have an infrastructure and we still are here, frankly. A rise of more than 5 degrees C could happen within a decade. Possibly by 2026, humans will likely go extinct with a 3 degrees C rise, and most life on Earth will disappear with a 5 degrees C rise. So this is Sam Carana. So if you want to get some sobering information, you go to his post. Those are all the latest. So thank you, Sam Carana, for posting all of that and keeping us apprised of what's going on. And we can see it in these weekly reports. We can see how the weather is messed up and the animals are dying and everything. So there's that. So I'm going to wrap it up for today. So I'll come back over to my slide. My slideshow. So we can see things are happening and it's not looking good for the planet. Time is short. So I recommend everyone get your spiritual houses in order. And if you haven't gotten right with God and Jesus, now would be a good time. And if you like my work and would like to support it, I have a PayPal link in the description. Or you can come on and join us over on Subscribestar for $5 a month, and you get notifications of my posts as soon as they go up. And that will be my main platform if YouTube does something to my channel. But until then, I'll keep doing both places, and then my website too. But the website is mainly for archiving what I've got over on Subscribestar. So I love you guys. Be safe, and God bless you, and go in peace, and I'll talk to you soon.